Is this something that you still truly enjoy doing?
I wouldn't say I ever enjoyed doing it.
Really?
No, I mean, I enjoy life. I enjoy just, staring at the sky from my hot tub. It's just that I want to carry on doing it rather than, dying instead.
So almost...
This is an investment.
It's an investment, but it's also, it's obviously some sort of an intellectual pursuit.
No, not really. It's a humanitarian pursuit. Some people view it as an intellectual pursuit, but I don't. I really feel, ever since I was a young kid, I have wanted to spend my life making a difference to the world, improving the quality and of course, in this case, quantity of life of humanity. And I'm just one of those incredibly lucky people. I've been able to end up in this position of essentially leading the crusade to do that in the biggest possible way.
So this is something that you felt compelled to do from a really early age?
Not the specific thing. So what actually happened was that as a teenager, having pretty much decided that this is what I wanted to do with my life, the first thing I did was I got into artificial intelligence research. And the reason that happened was because when I was a teenager, I tried my hand at programming. I found I was pretty damn good at it. And I thought, well, okay, one of the big problems in the world is the problem of work. The fact that people have to spend so much of their time doing stuff that they would not do unless they were being paid for it. And therefore, we need more automation. So I'll work on that because I'm good at it. And I had no reason at that time to believe that I was going to be any good at biology, particularly. And there were other people who were particularly good at biology. And I had made the mistaken but absolute assumption that everybody realized that aging was by far the world's biggest problem, and therefore biologists would be working on it and grinding away. And of course, you didn't hear much, but hey, it's a really hard problem, so that's not a surprise. So it wasn't until my late 20s that I found out that I was wrong. What happened was that I met and married a biologist, quite a senior one actually, who was a full professor at that time at UC San Diego. She was in England on sabbatical. And through her, I not only learned a lot of biology just by accident, over the dinner table, but I also found out gradually that she wasn't interested in aging. It hadn't occurred to me, so it didn't come up in conversation. I began to notice that it wasn't coming up in conversation. Started asking questions, and she would say things like, it's just decay, isn't it? And I would say, well, yeah, but so what? And she said, well, you're not going to learn any fundamental truths about the universe from studying decay. And I would say, well, that's true, yes, but it's bad for you. And she would say, but that's not my problem. And I would say, well, it kind of is. And that would be about as far as we would ever get. So eventually I came to terms with it, because it wasn't just her, of course, it was all the other biologists I was meeting.
It's a strange closed-mindedness.
Well, as I say, people have had to find ways not to think about aging.
Yes.
And so eventually I thought, well, that just won't do. I had to switch. I better switch fields. And I happened to have inveigled myself into a position where switching fields was something I was able to do. I had a very undemanding job at the University of Cambridge doing bioinformatics, which allowed me to do my artificial intelligence research in my spare time. I was being paid well enough, and I had access to university facilities and all that. So all I needed to do was repurpose my spare time and start paying my way to go to conferences, because of course back then nobody knew me and I wasn't being invited. So it went pretty well. I started doing quite well received stuff, so I became quite well respected in the field very quickly. And for the first 5 years, that was all that was happening, because I was basically harmless. And it was then 5 years in the year 2000, that I had this kind of eureka moment that damage repair was the way to go, and started talking about what the impact could be. And people started to think I had gone completely crazy, and it took a little while for people to come around.
So when you say that at an early age you felt compelled to try to help people, like what was that?
So what actually happened was this. It was all down to my mother's desire for me to practice the piano. She wasn't a particularly good pianist herself, but she wanted me to learn how to play the piano, and so she put pressure on me to practice all the time, and I was resistant. But somehow or other, my mother had already instilled in me a sense of introspection, a desire to understand why I thought what I thought. So I actually decided to think about why I didn't want to play the piano. And it took very little time for me to realize that the fundamental reason I didn't want to spend so much time tapping away on this thing was that the best case outcome of this would be that I would become a good pianist. And that was just not good enough, because there were already lots of other good pianists. So I would not be, contributing significantly to the quality of life of mankind by becoming just another one.
An additional great pianist.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I won't do. And of course, this was I was young, so this was gradual after that.
How old were you at the time?
Probably 8 or 9. So over the next few years, I'm going to say, this general idea that playing the piano was a waste of time crystallized into the understanding that I could actually articulate that I wanted to make a difference to the world. And so that's how by the time I was 15 was when I started programming, and I've just told you the rest.
That's an interesting mapping out of your future. At 9 years old, recognizing you're not going to make a significant contribution to the world by doing something that other people have already done.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a really interesting way to look at the world when you're 9. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I can't imagine her thinking like that.